First of all, Robert, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Well, let's jump straight into it. This is your first real album, your first artist album. What made this the perfect time to start on your first record?
Well, actually, when I decided to start working on my artist album, that's been a long time ago, like 4 years ago. But
Okay.
I really blew up as a DJ at that time, so I actually only focused on my DJ side instead of my production side. And 2 years ago, it was definitely, for me, the right moment to actually, well, start focusing more on the artist album. And well, after 2 years, I'm really happy that I actually can say that this is off my bucket list and I finished the album.
What changed 2 years before? Previously, did the hype die down a little bit, which gave you more time to work on the album, or what changed in those 2 years?
No, actually, I took some more time off to actually spend some more time in the studio instead of on the road and just focusing on the album. You know, I've been a couple of days in LA working on the album and did a lot of stuff back in the studio at home. And well, I had just some more time off, and that perfectly fitted my workflow.
And well, what was the starting point for the record then? You mentioned you started kind of 2 years ago, so what started it up?
Actually, just my personal trigger to actually come up with an artist album. I think every artist, no matter which genre, it's always like kind of a dream to release an artist album one day. And this was definitely for me a dream to finish off an artist album. And well, actually, for a DJ, normally you only make tracks straight for the dance floor, and with an artist album, you can actually showcase what you're capable of. So, yeah, it felt 2 years ago. It felt as the right time to start working on the album, and you know, it's not that every track is finished in a week. You know, I made like 30 or 35 tracks, and in the end, it only ended up with the best 15 tracks of those tracks.
Did your approach to the music, to producing music, change because it was an artist album?
Definitely, because I think with an artist album you have more musical freedom to actually show what you can do, and you know, you can collaborate with artists you would never expect me to do. For example, on this album there's a more radio-friendly track with Jason Derulo, while on the other side there's a more houseier underground track with Funkerman and Ivan, Where Is It Now, and even a non-dance track with Mr. Probz. So, you know, on an artist album you can, well, do different things, be more diverse. You can actually show more what you're capable of, and that's what that definitely triggered me to do an artist album right now.
Do you know well, what the fans think? Because you say, well, you can be more diverse on an artist album, but is the fan always in the back of your head what they will think?
Yeah, of course. The fans always in your head. You know, in the end, you make the songs for your fans. And on the other hand, you know, my diehard fans will always support me, even if I release a hip hop album right now. You know, my fans will always support me, and it's still me. You know, it's Hardwell. Even if I make a non-dance track, I still feel it. You know, I still feel what I'm doing, and that's the feeling I want to share with my fans, and not only because it's a certain hype or my sound is a certain hype. I think it's kind of boring if I released an album with only typical Hardwell songs. You know, after 20 minutes I would be bored myself. So I can't even imagine the rest of the world. And I think with this album I showed what I can do, and even within dance music, I think every track sounds completely different from the other ones. So I think that's a good thing.
And since you've been active as a DJ, have you saved up these more eclectic ideas for this album, or have you written them in the past 2 years?
No, actually, I all invented them in the past 2 years, and some things you don't even think about. They come up pretty natural. For example, my track Sally, it's a more rock track with electro influence, but I always played a bootleg of Nirvana in my set. So, you know, I always played kind of rock influence in my set. I think my DJ sets always reflected me as a more eclectic artist, and I think you definitely can hear it on this album.
Well, you have a wide range of collaborations, a lot of different people. Did you beforehand have an idea of who you wanted to have on the album?
No, I had no clue. There was no idea how the album should sound, and actually everything just came along the way. And super funny, the track with Mr. Probz, we just literally finished it 24 hours before the deadline of my album. So yeah, some things just happen, and yeah, you never know how things will go.
So how did it come up with Mr. Probz just before the deadline?
I had a track laying around for like a long time, but just like acoustic, you know, and for some reason, I said it before, it would be great if Mr. Probz was on this track, and I actually never approached him to do it. It's like, you know what, I'm just gonna give him a call and see how he feels, and I sent him the track, and he fell in love with it right away. This was exactly 48 hours before the deadline, and well, in the next day we finished the song in literally one day. He worked the whole night. I woke up at the time he finished recording his vocal, and from that point I started mixing his vocal and finishing up the track.
So you said with the other collaborations as well. Do you start with your track and then have them put a vocal line?
In this case, yes. Okay. Yeah, it all started with a basic idea I had, and then we bounced it to a songwriter. They write or like a singer, and they write it itself. But it all started with like basic ideas I had, like sometimes just like basic simple piano chords, but or like a simple melody, and then we go back and forth. For example, the track with Tiësto, that we started working on the track 4 years ago, but we never finished the track. So when I started working on my artist album, I completely redid the whole track, like completely. We only kept the vocal we had 4 years ago, and then we sit together in the studio for like 2 days, and then we finished the complete track.
Okay, so a lot of pressure then trying to finish those songs at the last minute?
Yeah, well, it's always, you know, a deadline is a deadline, and deadline always is kind of stressy, because if I didn't have a deadline, then I just keep continuing making tracks, and in the end you end up with so many tracks, and in the end you have to pick only like 15 songs that's gonna end up on the album. So I'm really happy with the album. Like, I'm completely 100% satisfied. Otherwise, I would push the deadline.
Well, you mentioned calling up Mr. Probz and having work on the album. With you being the #1 DJ for the past 3 years, can you just call anybody up and ask them to be on your record?
I don't know. Actually, I never used the #1 position to approach other artists. Never. Not even on this album. Because, well, all the artists on the album are artists I really love to work with. Like, really love to work with. I know all the artists, and well, I think Amber Shepherd, Bright Lights, those are the perfect example. We already did tracks in the past. Amber Shepherd is on my old track Apollo. Right. Bright Lights is on my old track with Dyro, Never Say Goodbye. And well, Jason Derulo, I've been in contact with him for a long time. I worked on his album on a couple of tracks, and then we were just talking on Skype, you know, and it was completely spontaneous that we started to work on a song for my album. And well, I'm really happy how that song turned out, but it all started as somehow as a kind of a friendship.
Right. So it's not that you think, well, I need a big name to feature on this track.
No, they were all like, everything was like really natural, you know. Even with Harrison on Sally, I met that guy this summer in Ibiza, and of course I knew him because of his track with David Guetta, but I never met him. And well, we had a really great night out, and the next day we went in the studio and started recording things and bouncing ideas back and forth, and well, it came all like in a good environment with good vibes, and I think that's why I have a good feeling with the album as well.
Well, you mentioned that you had about 30-35 songs. What did you base your selection on for the ones that ended up on the album?
Definitely diversity. I wanted every track to sound completely different as the other ones on the album. And sometimes, you know, some tracks never ended up on the album because of management, and yeah, that's a pity, because there are some good tracks that are still laying around now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there maybe one that you really liked and didn't
yeah, definitely a couple of tracks. I did a track with the band The Script, and well, it never ended up on my album because the contracts were not done before the deadline of the album. So that's the only reason why we never released a collab. But I'm definitely going to play that collab in my sets. That's what I can do. But you know, if it ever going to be released, I don't know.
What do you? So I assume you'll save them. You don't just throw it away. So
no,
maybe in the future.
Yeah, maybe I can. You know, maybe for the next album.
Right.
You never know.
Okay. Well, the album title. At what point did the album title pop up?
That's a funny story, actually. Well, funny. I came up with the title right when I went off stage on one of my concerts. Okay. No matter where I am in the world, no matter which culture I'm playing for, literally everywhere in the world, people can relate to dance music. Mm-hmm. People can sing along to music, and not even my songs, but like all the songs in my set. Like if people know the song, they all sing along to. Mm-hmm. And at that point, everybody is united.
Right.
And my fans always tell me like, there is such a certain feeling in your sets, such a certain emotion, and we all can relate to that certain energy and certain emotion. And that's the next thing I thought about was like, yo, everybody is united, united we are. And that's how I came up with the album. And even with this album, I tried to keep that certain feeling and spread it throughout the album. So that's actually why I called the album United We Are.
Okay, because well, you've been on your I Am Hardwell tour all over the world. So what does it tell you that everybody, anywhere, you can go anywhere, Tel Aviv, South America, it doesn't matter, but they can find something in your music. What does that tell you about your music?
I think in general, music is the most universal language there is, you know. Everybody can be some songs can make you happy, some songs you just do when you're sad, you know, and that's what music can change people, music can change mind states, and that's how special music is. Not even my music, but music in general. And yeah, at that point when a lot of people are feeling the same emotion at a certain song, that's the unity, you know, and that's actually everything that I described now. That's the feeling of the album and my mind state of the album. This is what I kept in mind working on the album.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.